Hi everybody, it's Sarah Cray with Let's Make Art, and today I'm going to teach you how to seal your watercolor paintings. Especially around this holiday season where some of you have been hand painting some cards. You might be wondering, how do I seal these things? How do I make sure it stays protected from water or when I put it in the mail, all of that kind of stuff? There's actually a very simple solution, and I'm going to show you how to do it, okay?
Let's do it.
So the medium that we are using to seal our watercolor paintings, and there's various forms, but my favorite is a wax medium. This here is Dorland's wax from Jacquard, who makes fantastic products. And all you need to do, I'm just going to show you right now. Okay. So this is what it looks like. Okay. It's wax. I'm going to take my watercolor card. This one I sealed a little bit earlier so I can show you the benefit of it. You might hear my dog walking around here. That's Birdie.
Her tail's hitting the wall. Thump, thump, thump.
Okay, so when you go to apply the wax, you want to make sure, one, that your painting is actually finished and completely dry. I usually like to let my watercolor paintings dry for a good 24 hours while they're still taped, because then that provides the most like flat paper. So after your painting is done, after it's dry, all that kind of stuff, you're going to take your wax, and there's a couple different ways that you can apply. Basically, you can either use your hands if they're clean. You can use a gloved hand if the glove is clean, or you can use like a lint-free towel. That's the only thing I've noticed when applying wax is if there's like lint in the surface or on the thing, it will get in the wax medium that you have to like pull out. So just be aware of that. You're going to pick up some wax on your towel, and you are going to rub in circular motions across your entire painting. Okay.
And you're not scared of it smearing?
No, it's so funny because the first time I tried this, I did it on like a scratch. It was like a floral painting that had a very dark background. And I was just like, okay, I'm terrified that this is going to smear, because it was like dark paint. You know what I mean? So if it were to smear, it would have been then. It does not smear. And while I was rubbing it on, I was like holding my breath. I'm like, oh no, but it doesn't smear. Sometimes if there's a lot of pigment on your paper, it's possible that the towel will pick up a little bit of that pigment, but it doesn't smear your actual painting.
Birdie got her squeaky toy.
Birdie found her squeaky toy. So you're going to do circular motions across the whole thing, and you want to make sure that you do it in a thin layer, okay? The reason why you want to do it in a thin layer is because if you do a thick layer, that can produce cloudiness on your painting, and you don't want it to be cloudy.
How did you find this magical product?
Jacquard, actually.
Nice.
We do collaborations with Jacquard all the time. They're fantastic. And he sent me a sample, and he was just like, this will seal your watercolor paintings. I was like, nuh-uh.
I know it works because we had a Sarah Cray original painting by our sink for years.
Yep.
That had this, and our sink gets steamy and, whatever. And it looked just as good as day one, years later.
Yeah, it's a great way to seal. So you might be wondering, like, what does this protect it from? What does this seal it from? So what it will seal it from is basically any smudging and any water. Okay, so, and I'll show you, I'm going to drip some water onto this to show you that the water no longer affects this. Okay. So after you rub it across the whole thing, that's it. You just sit and you let it dry. If you want to do, like, if you're doing watercolor cards and you also want to do the back, you can. It's not necessary. I guess unless you don't want like water drips on this, you can.
Yeah.
So this card I sealed just before this. It had time to dry.
How long do you recommend drying, by the way?
So there's actually two different things. There's drying and there's curing. Dry is where it's dry to the touch. That takes like 10 minutes.
Okay.
Curing, I talked to them, and it's 24 hours. And the difference between drying and curing is I Googled this to make sure I give you the right information. So drying is where it's solidified on the surface. Curing is a complete hardening process where the wax reaches its full strength of
repellent.
Yes.
Okay.
So that's 24 hours. So drying is like 10 minutes. Curing is about 24 hours. This is water, dirty water that I just had on my desk.
Scary. Huh?
And you'll see that the water drops, I don't know if they can tell, it's just beating on the surface. It's not smearing any of the paint. It's not reactivating any of the paint, nothing. And then you can just take a towel or washcloth and just Look, no smearing.
Excellent.
It's done. It is totally clean. Like, it's awesome.
Cool.
So you might be wondering, when do I use this? So if you are hand painting something and giving it to someone without any protection, then this is where a wax seal is perfect. So hand painted cards are a fantastic way to seal. The postcards that we do every single month for Let's Make Art Matter, you can seal those with wax. If you were to gift an original painting, you can seal that with wax. I will say that for me, if it's going in a frame, then I won't take the time to seal it because it's going to be safe in a frame. However, if you're not positive if the owner of this new painting will keep it in a frame, then I would suggest wax sealing it just so it can stay safe and sound. A couple more things. You can do multiple layers. So the more layers that you do, the more protected it will be. Just, of course, remember to keep the layers thin. You can also, after it dries, you can take a paper towel, and if you rub it with nothing on it after a paper towel, you can, it creates like a shiny varnish. So you buff out the wax after it has dried, and it will give you a little bit more of a vibrancy when it comes to the painting and the card. Okay?
Okay.
The other thing to keep in mind when it comes to sealing your paintings is another great way to use it is in your journal. So sometimes when I do these atmospheric paintings, I'll get big chunks of paint from when I use like my palette knife. And you can see here that when I close this, even though it was dry, it kind of like tore the paper a little bit because those chunks lifted up. Where if you actually take this wax and seal this before you close it and let that kind of dry and then close it, then it will not do that. It protects your journal paintings from sticking to each other when you have big globs of paint. And this can work for any medium. It can work for acrylic, it can work for watercolor, it can work for gouache. Like, it's really a great tool to use.
That's awesome.
Okay?
Well, thank you, Sarah Cray.
You're welcome. That's it. So good luck. That's how you can seal your watercolor paintings. Oh, and one last thing. This does not protect it from fading.
I was going to ask that.
Yes. So this is more protecting it from smudging and from water and weather and things like that. But I don't think that it is protecting UV. I think that there's some that do actually, but I'm not positive.
You could also, step 1, spray the UV protectant, let it dry. Step 2, wax it.
Yes. And I will say that this is my favorite way of protecting because there are spray protectants, but I actually don't care for those. I don't know why. It's something about it. I think it's because like the overspray, I don't know, it stresses me out. I feel like I have a lot more control of where this goes when I'm just hand wax it. So anyways, hope that's helpful. Hope that you now know how you can keep your watercolor paintings safe. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye.